assumes office in January. Jonathan Ndi applaud Liberian's former soccer star George Weah has defeated Vice President Joseph Boakai to win Liberia's presidential runoff election with 61.5% of the vote based on 98.1% of ballots cast, the Election Commission said on Thursday. Weah will succeed incumbent President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf next month in what will be Liberia's first democratic transition since 1944. Weah supporters paraded through the streets of the capital Monrovia and honked car horns to celebrate the news. Weah grew up in Clara Town slum in Monrovia and went on to star for AC Milan, Paris Saint-Germain and Chelsea and become the only African to win FIFA World Player of the Year. His rags-to-riches story helped him tap into dissatisfaction with Johnson Sirleaf's 12-year tenure, which drew a line under years of civil war but was criticized for failing to root out elite corruption and persistent poverty. Turnout for the second round stood at 56%. National Election Commission (NEC) Chairman Jerome Corcoya told reporters in Monrovia. Liberia is Africa's oldest modern republic and was founded by freed U.S. slaves in 1847. Its last democratic transfer of power occurred in 1944 and was followed by a military coup in 1980 and a 14-year civil war that ended only in 2003. The U.S.-based Carter Center said there were notable improvements in the handling of Tuesday's vote from the first round in October, echoing positive assessments from other international observers. Meanwhile, former President Goodluck Jonathan, who is co-leading the National Democratic Institute election observer group to the Liberian presidential runoff election, and other leaders of the delegation have acclaimed the Boxing Day polls as peaceful, orderly and well-organized. The National Democratic Institute (NDI) made this known on Thursday in its preliminary statement issued in Monrovia on the presidential runoff held December 26. The delegation, however, stressed that official election results were not yet complete, and called on Liberian political parties and candidates to cooperate in good faith with the National Elections Commission and from the results to be expeditiously released. Speaking of his experience on the field on voting day, former President Jonathan said, "I am proud of Liberians, who have come from crisis to democracy and have shown themselves to be a model of peace and stability in the region. Democracy goes beyond election day, and if Liberia succeeds, West Africa succeeds, and the world succeeds." Speaking in the same vein, Kosovo's former president Atifi Jajaga said, "The NDI delegation would like to congratulate the people of Liberia for exercising the right to vote and for making a historic step towards the consolidation of democracy in their country. It is my hope that the positive trends that we have observed during this election will be sustained and further improved during future elections." In noting that voting was peaceful, orderly and well organized as executed by trained polling officials, the preliminary statement also highlighted aspects of voter participation, election administration, women and youth participation and security. The NDI Liberia International Election Observer delegation included 36 political and civic leaders, elections experts and regional specialists from 18 countries across Africa, Europe and North America. Fiose congratulates President-elect, rejects UN choice of Obasanjo as mediator. Ekiti State Governor, Mr. Adele Fiose, has congratulated the newly elected President of Liberia, George Opongwe, describing him as someone destined by God to be president. He said, "I salute George Weah's courage and resilience in spite of the activities and machinations of oppressors and interlopers who blocked his victory 12 years ago. Because the likes of former President Olusegun Obasanjo are not God, George Weah has been able to achieve his destiny through the grace and power of God, and I wish him a successful tenure. The governor, who also described the United Nations (UN) choice of Obasanjo as a mediator in Liberia as misplaced, pointed out that someone like Obasanjo, who was at the center of the manipulation of George Weah's electoral victory 12 years ago, should not be the one to mediate now that Weah has secured the victory that he was denied then. Speaking through his special assistant on public communications and new media, Larry Olayinka, Governor Fayose urged the All Progressives Congress (APC)-led federal government and particularly the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to learn from what happened in Liberia and allow the will of the people to prevail in 2018 and 2019 elections. He said, the emergence of George Weah as Liberia president 12 years after he was shortchanged by those who wielded power at the time is a further confirmation that there is no God in man. Governor Fayose called on the UN Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, to withdraw the nomination of Obasanjo as a mediator in Liberia, noting that Obasanjo, who was a major actor in the Liberia's 2005 election crisis, lacked moral rights to be a mediator in the affairs of the country now that it had the first peaceful transfer of power from one democratically elected leader to another in more than 70 years.